Hey, Ashley.
Yeah.
Do you know what movie comes out this week?
No.
Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice.
Oh, well, I'd really like to see that, but I don't know anything about Batman or Superman.
Boy, are you in luck, because this week on Geek History Lesson, we're going to tell you the top 5 Batman v Superman stories. Away!
And welcome to Geek History Lesson. I'm Ashley Victoria Robinson.
And I'm Jason V. Inman. Welcome to your Geek History Lesson, because it is time for the dawn of justice to dawn all over this podcast, because
dun, 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 dun.
Yeah, we got some theme music on, and it's time to talk about some Batman v Superman stories, because that movie is dawning all over us, and we're ready for it, and we're ready to turn on that bat signal and light up that kryptonite and jump in our invisible jets and make this happen. Now, the title of this episode, I said Batman v Superman stories, the top 5 Batman v Superman stories. Now, we want to put out a little caveat right at the top.
Caveats? What?
I know. And I know some people on Twitter complain about our use of caveats, but damn it, it's a dawn of justice and we're ready for it. So, what I want to say is that even though in the title of our episode it says Batman v Superman, not every one of these stories are a fight, are they, Ashley?
No, in fact, I would say most of mine are not.
Some of mine are. So we don't mean the top Batman, Superman fight each other storylines. We're talking about the best Batman, Superman storylines that we think you should all read. Ashley has a list of 5. I have a list of 5. Yes. And we're just going to drop right into this list. Now, I will say some of mine have fights. Some of mine have some really good fights.
Some of mine have fights.
So there you go. So our titles have true. So we're all good. And we're
looking for material that celebrates both of these characters.
Exactly. And the other point of this podcast is that if you go see Batman v Superman and you like that movie and you're like, boy, I really would love to read some more Batman v Superman storylines. Well, guess what? This podcast is perfect for you.
I'm also going to hazard a guess that they're not fighting for the entire, 2.5 hour long movie.
Well, you know what? Somewhere during that movie, the justice has to dawn. And so,
the justice sun rises.
So we can't be fighting during a dawn. That's bad form.
That's like some Dawn of the Planet of the Apes form.
There you go. All right, let's hop into the list. We're going to do this backward. We're going to start at 5 and go to 1. So this is, Ashley, what is your number 5 of the top 5 Batman v Superman stories?
My number 5 is a little story that you can get in a trade paperback that some might call an Elseworlds story. It is written by Mark Miller with art by Dave Johnson. It is Superman: Red Sun.
Superman Red Sun. I'm going to do that for every title.
Okay, cool. So here's the synopsis. Imagine a reality where the world's most powerful super being does not grow up in Smallville, Kansas. Or even America, for that matter.
Dun, dun, dun.
Superman Red Sun is a vivid tale of Cold War paranoia that reveals how the ship carrying the infant that would later be known as Superman lands in the midst of the 1950s Soviet Union.
Wait, can you do that sentence again, except in a 1930s old-timey radio voice?
Not for Superman Red Sun. It's a vivid tale of Cold War paranoia. Bring me pictures of Superman. I need them yesterday. There's 3 more paragraphs explaining what happens in the story, but that's basically it. It's what if Superman landed in Cold War Russia. And I really like this particular story because this was one of the first Superman stories I read where I was like, oh, look, Superman is not a boring character and you can do...
That's heresy. Don't say that.
Dynamic things with him.
That is heresy. You're talking heresy.
I know. But it is interesting. It is both exemplifies nature and nurture because it shows you that Kal-El, the little boy from Krypton, is a really good, pure-hearted individual who just wants to do good. But when
it's interesting, go ahead. I'm sorry, finish the thought.
I was gonna say, but when your version of doing good is keeping the proletariat down and working under very strict disguised under the guise of communist kind of oligarchy, it's interesting to see what measures this version's willing to go to versus the guy that we know who grew up in Smallville.
Can I ask you a question?
You can.
Why did you decide to put this on the Batman v Superman list? Because for me...
Well, that's so funny because I was just going to get to that.
Batman is... Well, I'm a perfect setup then. Batman is a very minor part of this storyline to me. And when I think of Superman Red Sun... I kind of almost think about this more as a Superman Luthor story.
Well, I thought of this one first because I would say that in almost all of my other ones, they don't fight. I thought I should probably have one where they actually fight. I'm not a huge fan of the exploration of Batman's character in this because it's basically just like grumpy old man Bruce Wayne.
Well, you also like because the Batman costume in this has earmuffs.
Yeah, well, he wears the fuzzy Russian hat.
Yes.
Like that, exactly what you're imagining right now with the ear flaps and everything. And he's kind of like
They made an action figure of it.
Did they really?
They did, yeah. They made a whole Red Sun.
If someone has one and would like to send it to me, hit me up on Twitter.
There's a Batman Red Sun.
I've seen Superman, but I've never seen
Red
Batman.
Sun. They made Superman. They made Batman. They made Wonder Woman, and they made Green Lantern.
But this version of Batman, Red Sun Batman, is Batman at the height of his dickery, and it's the only time where Superman beats the crap out of him, and I think that Batman deserves it. This particular version of Batman. So that was one of the reasons why I wanted to include it. And also because this is the story that I think diverges from the classic ideas of both of the characters the most.
Interesting.
And it's a good time. And it's like 100 pages.
Great.
You're not dedicating too much time to Red Sun. So,
all right.
Yeah.
All right. Cool.
What is your number 5?
My number 5 is a continuation of a somewhat... I would say popular. I mean, I would say it was popular, sure. Television series that was on the CW that ran for 10 years that started every week with "Somebody save me." I can't do that high note. Save me.
I don't even know how that song goes, so it's okay.
That Smallville season 11 detective is what I'm talking about. I apologize for my bad singing. Written by Brian Q. Miller, who actually worked on Smallville. Now, if you don't know, it's a digital comic continuation of the Smallville series. These issues would show up online at Comixology, and then they would eventually collect them into issues and trades. Now, the interesting thing about, and the reason why I picked this storyline that is called Detective, is because Batman never showed up in all 10 seasons of Smallville. But in the comic books, he showed up in this arc for the first time in an arc called Detective. Now, the reason why I put this on there is because this is a very interesting Batman. This is not a Batman that we're used to, kind of like yours. I think it's both interesting that we went for alternate Batmans.
Yeah, interesting.
His armor is very close to being a real-world suit of armor. It has like pads. You can see seams. He actually paints the bottom of his face. So he paints his face. Paints
on a chin strap?
He paints his mouth black so it blends in with his cowl.
Oh, that's cool.
He has Barbara Gordon as his sidekick called Nightwing.
And she has a really cool costume.
Now, basically, the story is that Batman comes to Metropolis hunting for the criminal known as Joe Chill. Ashley, we all know who Joe Chill is, right?
He's the dude what killed Batman's parents.
Yep. Now, Superman shows up when Batman bashes in some of the criminals' heads, and Batman, for a time, is actually kicking Superman's butt because he has red sunlight gloves, and his chest display, his bat, beams red sunlight.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yep. And Batman reveals that he figured out that Superman's chest symbol is Kryptonian, because of several events on the show. Now, in previous seasons of Smallville, there was one season, season 9, where a group of Kryptonians showed up from the Phantom Zone. They were led by Zod, by a young Zod, and they like burned the Kryptonian symbols into certain buildings. And at one point, they took over a good chunk of the world. Well, Batman, that's how he figured out that Superman was Kryptonian, from all the symbols left over from that story event.
Interesting.
So it's interesting. It ties back into Smallville, yet moves the story forward. Eventually, Superman defeats Batman, and Batman reveals that it was all just a distraction for Nightwing to break Bruno Mannheim out of jail so that they could question him about where the location of Joe Chill is, which I, again, think is such a Batman move, that the fight was meaningless to him. He was just like, I'm just going to distract him. It was a tool. Yes. And actually, when Superman finds out that this is all about the death of Batman's parents, Superman actually wants to help.
Aw, of course he does.
And that's another reason why I decided to include this arc in here, is because I think the best Superman-Batman fights are where they fight and then they help each other out and become good friends, which is what happens in the Smallville series. If you keep reading it, this Batman and Clark become friends. But again, one of the most interesting interpretations of Batman I've ever seen, and one of the few times that I actually have been able to believe that Batman could actually beat Superman.
But he has the appropriate tools to help him out.
Well, that wasn't the point. The point is that I feel that most times, I'm sorry, I love Batman. Superman could beat him in 5 seconds.
Yeah, but you're saying, at least it seems like you're saying that he could beat him because he's got all these other things in place.
Exactly.
You can't just punch him into oblivion.
Well, they set up the idea that in the series that Batman has been studying Superman for quite a while, and you're right. He has all the appropriate tools, so he can do it. And when Batman doesn't have the tools, I'm sorry, Superman beats him in 5 seconds. I'm sorry. You can love Batman all you want.
Everyone's screaming into their iPhones right now.
Well, good, go for it. But I'm sorry. This is a guy who can punch the moon out of orbit. Batman poses no problem to him. So there you go. But that, if you've never read Smallville season 11, I think you're really going to like it. And give it a shot. It's one of the best Superman. I believe I gave you the Supergirl storyline. I was
just going to say that I'm not terribly familiar with the Smallville TV series, but I can vouch for that comic series. I read the Supergirl volume, and it was really good.
Yes,
like surprisingly really good.
Brian Q. Miller is a great writer.
Well done.
Yes, there you go. That was my number 5. Ashley, what is your number 4 for the best Batman v Superman stories?
My number 4 is a little story called Kingdom Come.
Dun, dun, dun.
Written by, you gonna do it in the voice?
Kingdom Come.
I feel like I'm playing Street Fighter. Written by Mark Waid with art by... Let them fight. With art by the amazing Alex Ross, very painterly. Set in the not-so-distant future, the DC universe is spinning inexorably out of control. The new generation of heroes has lost their moral compasses, becoming just as reckless and violent as the villains they fight. The previous regime of heroes, the Justice League, returns under the most dire of circumstances, setting up a battle of the old guard against the uncompromising protectors in the battle that will define what heroism truly is. Man, whoever wrote that copy did a heck of a job.
Can I point something out?
Please.
We are 2 for 2 with you of picking Elseworlds stories.
Yes.
Now, I want to, if you don't know what an Elseworlds is, Elseworlds were these type of stories that DC told mainly in the 90s, sometimes in the 2000s, where they were just alternate timelines, like sort of like what ifs, like yeah,
exactly like what ifs.
So this one is what if in the future Superman retired and then all the superheroes
got real old.
No, all the superheroes that were currently operating just decided to murder criminals, forcing Superman to come out of retirement. And Superman's like, "You can't do it. I'm going to lock you in prison." And Batman's like, "You can't lock heroes in prison." And then they fight.
Yeah, and it's also because Superman is kind of the echelon, the man standing on top of the obelisk that all the other heroes are holding themselves in comparison to. And when he steps away from superheroics, there's kind of, at least the way that it's presented in this story, of course, arguably, there's nobody else for them to compare themselves and to kind of set their moral compass by. And I really like Batman and Superman stories where you get to see their relationship as it develops through different points in their lives. Because usually you see them like 20s, 30s, 40s, kind of depending on what the current continuity is. And by this time, I would say they are easily in their 60s.
Yes.
Batman is wearing an exoskeleton. He looks very much like an old man. Clark basically looks the same. He's just got some gray on his temples. You
know what I always thought was one of the smartest things about Kingdom Come?
Nope.
That in the future, at the end of the storyline, this is not spoilers for anything, but at the very end of the storyline, these two men go to the jobs of their fathers.
Yes, I was actually
Clark
just
becomes a farmer, and Bruce becomes a doctor.
Yeah.
Which I always loved that beat.
And the thing that I think is probably the most romantic part of the story is when you meet Superman here for the first time, you see him and he's like a workhorse. He's tilling a field. And it's like, it's such a beautiful image. And
it's a plow that's like 100 feet tall.
It's huge. Yeah. But yeah, the idea that they go back and they honor the men who shaped them the most, but who they couldn't have been trying to be the more opposite of.
Well, actually, if you go by that respect, then Bruce should have become an amazing butler.
Well, yeah, that's
Look at how good I dust, guys. Look at how good I dust.
But again, this is kind of your classic Batman Superman story where like they're at odds for whatever reason. There's a fight, but then in the end they come together because they realize that even though they're different, they're better together. And plus, this is probably, of my suggestions, the most beautiful book to look at.
Oh, the art's amazing. Alex Ross is amazing.
And throughout, also because it's written by Mark Waid, there's about 100,000 Easter eggs to the DC and Vertigo universes up to this point. There's a Watchmen Easter egg that's worth looking out for.
I will throw this out there. This is something that not many people know. The Easter eggs are Alex Ross, not Mark Waid.
Oh, really?
And to be and Kingdom Come is more Alex Ross than Mark Waid. And the fact is because the project, the outline, was written before Mark Waid ever came out on the project by Alex Ross.
I didn't know that.
James Robinson almost wrote Kingdom Come.
Oh, that would have been so different.
But Mark Waid gets so much credit, and I actually...
But it's also Mark Waid, as a writer, has a reputation that precedes him. Alex Ross...
And he did a great job.
Doesn't have a writerly...
But the genesis of Kingdom Come and the basic spine is Alex's.
Well, Alex Ross, thank you so much.
So anything you give... I feel like... Alex deserves more of the credit than Mark, but Mark did an amazing job. Yes, the dialogue's all Mark.
Yeah. Also, this is one of the few early appearances of the classic Red Robin with the cowl costume.
It was the first appearance of the Red Robin.
It was. It is Dick Grayson, not Tim Drake, inside the costume, but I think that's, for me, that's a little tidbit that's worth knowing, is that you get to see Red Robin costume here.
You know how he designed that costume?
Alex Ross?
No, Alex Ross. If you go back and read Kingdom Come, you can see this. The great thing about it, if you ever buy the Absolute or one of the deluxe editions of Kingdom Come, there's a whole appendice where Alex Ross shows you his Easter eggs, because Alex Ross says that it takes him so long to paint this stuff that for him, the fun stuff is to put stuff in.
Right.
The Red Robin cowl came from painting a Michael Keaton Batman cowl and then erasing the ears.
I didn't know that.
And if you look at the first appearance of Red Robin in Kingdom Come, it's so Michael Keaton's cowl.
You're just like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Well, as soon as we're done this podcast, I'm going to have to go and take a look at that, and then I will try to remember to put a picture on the internet.
There you go.
What is your number 4?
Give me one of the geek facts on Geek History Lessons Tumblr.
Yeah, we'll see.
There you go. My number 4 is a story that was a prelude to Infinite Crisis. And Ashley, what is Infinite Crisis? It's my favorite question to ask you.
Is Infinite Crisis is the one where Superboy Prime gets really mad and punches a hole in reality, and then they stick him in a wall.
No, I don't know where you get the stick him in a wall.
Well, don't they stick him in the source wall at the end?
No.
Why do I think that?
I have no idea. They stick him in a prison cell in Oa at the end.
Oh, I always thought that they stick him in the wall.
But this is where the Earth 2 Superman, the original Superman, comes back from the past. But anyways, there were several storylines that built up to that.
Yes.
And there was a story arc that was published in the main titles of Superman and Wonder Woman that was called Sacrifice. And Sacrifice is my number 4. And actually, it took place in Superman number 291, Action Comics number 829, Adventures of Superman number 642, and Wonder Woman number 219. Now, the storyline of this is, after hacking the Bat computer to discover the weaknesses of the Justice League members, Maxwell Lord, who was a member of the Justice League International, but kind of became a bad guy, also a Supergirl villain right now on the TV show, he mind controls Superman, tricking the Kryptonian into fighting his fellow Justice League team members, believing that he's actually battling his greatest enemies like Darkseid. Now, in this storyline, Superman ambushes a completely unprepared Batman in the Batcave, and blindsided by the all-powerful Superman, who believes in a life-or-death battle with Darkseid to protect his friends, Batman almost dies from the beating.
Wow.
Now, the interesting thing about the story is that most of this fight takes place off camera, with Superman believing that he's punching the crap out of Darkseid. So you mainly see him fighting Darkseid. And it's not until the end of the storyline that you realize that he's been fighting Batman. But for me, the aftermath of Superman standing over his friend's lifeless body, basically at the point, and how bad it makes him feel comes off as very visceral. Let me listen to this quote from Superman standing over Batman's bed.
Okay.
I'm listening to him. The sound of his ribs crushing in when they should be moving out. The drip of an IV leaking plasma into his veins. The sound of my friend refusing to surrender. They tell me I did this to him. They tell me I tried to kill him. It's a very sad Superman.
It is sad.
And so for me, this is why this is one of my best Batman v Superman storylines. Even though it's basically, if you want to put down the crux of the story, it's Superman beating Batman off camera. But I think the moments of Superman over his, let's just go and say it, best friend's deathbed are very sad. Now, of course, if you don't know, this storyline all leads to Wonder Woman snapping Max Lord's neck on national television and leading to the breakup of the Trinity for a while. But I still think it's a damn cool story, even though Batman's a small part of it. And the most impactful moments of this storyline are between Batman and Superman, and it's a plus that Wonder Woman's in it, because then hey, that helps out with Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice anyway. So there you go. Have you ever read Sacrifice?
I've not.
It's the art's kind of shady because it's a different artist every issue.
Yeah, which is tough for events.
But I think the storyline is pretty good. The only part of the storyline I don't really like is part 1.
So fight through part 1 for the rest of it.
Yeah, part 2, part 3, and part 4 are great. Part 4 is the Max Lord part. Part 2 is where he beats the crap out of Batman. Part 3 is where he mourns. So that's why I think it's good. That's why it is my number 4 Batman v Superman storyline.
Cool.
There you go. Ashley, what is your number 3 for the Dawn of Justice?
Well, I kind of like to take the Grant Morrison approach to stuff sometimes where you have to go back and revisit everything where it started and that everything that came along the way has value.
Well, you have to realize, like he always says the thing that whenever he gets on a character, he studies their original appearance because there has to be something in that original issue
that's carried throughout
to explain why they've carried so long. Yes.
Yeah. So I went and read me some Superman Volume 1, number 76.
Ooh, I think I know where you're going with this.
Which has a really great cover of a lady in a green dress standing on top of a building on fire, and Batman and Superman both trying to save her. And they both kind of have their hands very threateningly shoved towards her face. This is, of course, the first adventure of Batman and Superman, and it is awesomely golden age. Batman and Robin show up to Metropolis to do some superheroics, and then Batman basically abandons Dick, and he's just like, go and don't die. And so then he learns about a diamond thief. He follows the diamond thief onto a cruise to try to stop him. But who else is also on this cruise? Why, one mild-mannered Clark Kent disguised, pretending that he's not Superman. So while they are there having a chit-chat, they figure out each other's secret identities, and they figure out that they're both looking for the diamond thief, and they don't want to help each other look for the diamond thief, but golly gee, it's the golden age, so on the very next page, we're going to work together and get the diamond thief and save the lady from falling off the building.
I find it very funny that you left out to me what is the most important part of this story. The fact that Bruce Wayne and Clark Kent show up at the last minute and that there's only one cabin left on the ship and they have to share the cabin. And there is actually a scene in it where they sleep in the same bed and they fight for the covers.
It's because I was gonna screen cap that. This is where fan fiction was born, people.
Yeah, right?
The really silly and the really dated elements aside, again, this is like what I was talking about in Kingdom Come. Like, this is the basis for kind of your classic Batman and Superman don't want to work together, but then they figure out that they're stronger together, and then they come together in the end. It is very silly, but it is classic storytelling, obviously, because we're still repeating the same basic plot years later. You can find it all over the internet. It's really accessible because DC does a really great job with their backlog of digital comics. And
yes, they do.
I think that there is enough just like really genuinely fun stuff there that like go and take a look at it.
By the way, if you don't want to go back to the past, Joe Kelly did a Superman Batman annual that kind of retold that telling.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's not as good. I think the original is better, but it is the same storyline. It's Clark and Bruce meeting for the first time on a cruise, having to share the bed, fighting for the covers, and it's drawn by Ed McGuinness.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah, but I think in that storyline, Deathstroke is the villain, not the Diamond Thief.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
I think you're right. Mm-hmm. So I'm really looking forward to the day when somebody takes my screen cap of them in bed together and puts it on a t-shirt.
Man, how awesome would it be if we saw that in Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice, which we haven't seen by this point, by the way.
I will stand up, applaud, and cheer loudly in the theater. I hit my mic. I was so excited by the prospect of that. Batman, if that in fact happened.
Batman v Superman: Fight of the Covers.
Hey man, it'll be like a Wall of Jericho thing. Like Ben Affleck and Henry Cavill, they're good-looking guys.
There you go.
So I'll watch them fight.
Yeah.
Let them fight.
Cover
to cover.
Let them fight. Let them fight.
What else have you got for us for Batman v Superman?
You mean my number 3 choice?
Yes.
Well, my number 3 choice, of course, is a nickname that has been given to, let's say, the top 3 heroes of the DC universe, and that is Trinity. And no, real quick, this is not the weekly Trinity series by Kurt Busiek. This is the awesome Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman Trinity, which was a 3-issue comic book limited series published by DC in 2003, written and drawn by Matt Wagner of Mage fame, Mage the Hero Discovered. Now, this series focuses on the first meeting and the alliance between the DC Trinity of Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman. So in the storyline, Batman and Superman have already met. They sort of know each other. They're not really friends, and it's them meeting Wonder Woman for the first time. Now, basically, the storyline is a group called the Purge steals some kryptonite from Metropolis. They free a creature known as Bizarro, and then they hire an Amazonian woman with red hair who's also from Themyscira, but for some reason tells everybody that her name is Diana. And the reason why this storyline is my number 3 Batman v Superman storyline is because there are so many great character beats in it. Have you read the story?
I have not.
In the story, in the first issue, when Batman discovers the kryptonite has been stolen from Metropolis, he gets in his car, has Alfred drive into Metropolis, and he meets up with Clark. And he discovers that Clark was in the Fortress of Solitude the night that the kryptonite was stolen. So actually, Batman kind of disapproves. He's like, "You were only out that night, right?" And Clark's like, "Yeah, I just went out at night." He's like, "Are you sure?" And so he's like, "Yeah." And so there's a funny beat. Clark thinks to himself, in caption boxes, "I know what he's thinking. Crime never takes a vacation. But there's no beautiful sunsets way down in that cave, Bruce."
I feel like you're showing off doing your Superman voices because I can't do a Batman or a Superman voice.
Oh, I'm just doing a Clark voice.
I'm just teasing you.
I feel like you do quote. I think when I do quotes, I think it sounds dumb if I just read it. I'm like, I think he's down there taking a vacation. No, it's like Superman, gravitas. I haven't done my Batman voice yet.
Well, I'm looking forward to it.
You want me to do my Batman voice?
Yes.
Well, I do a Christian Bale Batman voice, which is of course is "Where's the trigger?" which is Batman. But I have a voice that if I ever got cast as Batman, I would say, "Oh, okay. Let me try to figure out something I would say." Here we go. Shh. "Clark, what do you think you're doing? Come over here. You're only taking a vacation tonight, right?" "I'm Batman." That would be the voice that I would use as my Batman.
I think that was a great audition, and we look forward to welcoming you onto the project.
You'll see me next year in Batman and the Wildcats. Clark. He's kind of like this. He's Clark. There you go.
That was awesome. Thank you so much
back
for
to the
indulging
story.
me.
Trinity. So after that moment, of course, Wonder Woman, their first meeting with Batman, she sees Bruce terrorizing a criminal, and she tells him that you have to be merciful to them. And Batman replies, "Oh, here's the Batman line. Here we go.
Okay.
I don't have time for mercy."
That is such a Batman line.
So again, it's the character beats, the art's amazing, and it's funny, like when Superman first meets Wonder Woman, he kind of flirts with her, and Batman's of course like, "I don't have the time of day for you. Like, I'm busy.
I'm a businessman.
I'm a billionaire. I have stuff to do." That's a Batman. So this is why I think it is, if you're going to read a Batman v Superman storyline or Batman Superman storyline, Trinity has to be one of your top choices. It was just re-released in a deluxe hardcover, which is awesome. So I think, Ashley, you should definitely check it out. Great character beats, and they fight Bizarro, Ra's al Ghul, and another Amazon. It's awesome.
Can I borrow your copy of it?
Sure.
Cool, then I'll read it.
Cool.
Done. Sold Kryptonian.
All right, Ashley. And again, as I said, that Batman, he doesn't have time for mercy. But if you like mercy, how about giving us some mercy over at patreon.com/John? If you don't know what that is, or if you don't know what mercy is, well, then let us give you a lesson. Well, first off, Mercy is actually a Superman the Animated Series character.
That's what I was thinking.
Who is the assistant of Lex Luthor. And there's strong rumors that she's going to appear in Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice. See, this all ties together. But if we're talking about the mercy kind, like the support that you give to artists of stuff that you like Geek History Lesson and all the videos we do over at youtube.com/Jawin, you can go to patreon.com/Jawin and give any monetary amount that you deem worthy every month. That's right. We're not asking for a thing for everything we do. We're not asking for a thing for everything that we thing. You get me? Do you understand me?
Why is it always called a thing, Jim?
Why is it always called a thing, Jim? But we only ask for an amount once per month to help us out with this lesson. And we also give you cool things. Like for $3 a month, you get the Geek History Lesson episodes early. For $5 a month, you get the Patreon exclusive Geek History Lesson extra podcast. Now, we will never upload that podcast to anywhere else. It will only exist on Patreon. So if you're a fan of Geek History Lesson, you're only getting half the experience. I'm just telling you right there. So if you like Mercy, like I said, it helps us, helps keep the lights on, and it goes to keeping server costs down and everything like that around the Mind University. Thank you all to everyone who supports us over there. Patreon.com/Jawin. Back to the lesson of Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice. Ashley.
Dun 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 dun. Yeah.
I am Batman. What is your number 2?
Well, my number 2, and I guess I'd have to be Carrie Kelly because this is about as deep as my voice
Robin.
goes. F yeah. My number 2 was originally an animated series episode. I was going to say movie, but that's a lie.
I think the first time, if I believe what you're talking about, can I go ahead and say your choice?
And later became an issue of the Batman and Superman Adventure comic book, and it's written by like 6 people.
Well, what is your choice? You haven't said that yet.
World's Finest.
Thank you. I believe the first time it was broadcast all together. And then I think later it was broken up into 3 episodes.
Yes, because it is a whole 2-hour-long event.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But the one that I'm specifically thinking about, I believe, is part of part 2, but begins at the end of part 1.
No, just call the whole thing. But yeah.
But specifically, like, I want to call this out for the scene where Batman and Superman meet for the first time, because there's all this auxiliary stuff that's going on. There's Joker stuff. There's Lois stuff.
Well, basically, this storyline, if I remember right, is Joker steals kryptonite, which causes Batman to follow Joker to Metropolis, and then Joker works with Lex Luthor, and then Batman and Superman team up, and Bruce almost gets Lois to leave Clark. Metropolis forever.
There's a big deal where like Bruce seduces. That's my new band's name, Lois, and Clark is not terribly happy about
Lois.
it.
How are you doing, Lois?
Hey, Clark, what can I do for you?
I'm not Clark, I'm Bruce.
Hi, Bruce.
But I'm actually Batman.
What can I do for you?
Lois, I'm Batman.
I just default assume that you're playing Superman. Because that's how high I think of you.
All right, back to your lesson.
Oh, God, I almost dropped my timer. So basically what happens is Batman shows up in Metropolis after Bruce Wayne's been there for a while because, they're always showing up in the same place. And then he is interrogating this thug, and Superman shows up, and he doesn't really like what Batman's doing because he's a little extreme. And then Batman kind of kicks his butt a little bit, which is really cool. And he peeks under Batman's mask, and he figures out that it's Bruce Wayne. And having met Bruce Wayne before, and given that their interaction wasn't
too friendly,
this is kind of a big deal, and he's not too happy about that. And then Batman, of course, has some kryptonite with him, and he kind of tells Superman what's happened. And then there's a scene later where Superman goes back to his apartment, and Superman in the animated series is like a really cool 1950s Art Deco apartment.
All of Metropolis is a cool 1950s Art Deco.
I know, but I'm just like, man, I know you're a journalist, but like, how do you make that much?
There's no way he can afford it.
Much money. And then it's he's in his really cool 1950s Art Deco apartment. Of course, he sees that Batman has figured out who he is as well. And then after this, Superman kind of grows this grudging respect for Batman, even though he doesn't like Batman's methods, and he doesn't really like Bruce Wayne. But they do it so simply, and I think because it was developed for animation, and then even when they kind of migrated that over into the comics, it's just they do it. It tells you, like, the way they discover each other's identities tells you about their strengths. It tells you about how good they are at their jobs, and then the fact that they can take that information and get beyond it again to come together and work as a team for the greater good. I just think is a lot of very subtle storytelling that kind of gets missed when you're doing your dark and gritty comics.
Well, I'm going to put this out there. For me, this movie, this animated episode, is the best meeting of Batman and Superman ever.
And you told me once that you thought that they should basically just lift the scene.
Yes, because the scene where Superman, like I said, you kind of undersold it a little bit, because Superman finds a tracking device on his cape.
And it's shaped like a bat,
and
of course.
He tracks, he looks out his window, and he with his telescopic vision, you see the camera zoom and zoom to this building that you think is probably over a mile away.
Yeah.
And you see Batman sitting on top of that, and he's looking with binoculars. And then he sees that Superman sees him, and he puts down the binoculars, smiles and waves, and jumps off the building.
Yeah.
And you're like, that is so brilliant.
But again, like that moment, no dialogue, very simple storytelling devices, but that's like so Superman and so Batman. Like, it exemplifies the both of them to a T. So, yeah, World's Finest. Download the movie, download all 3 of the episodes.
It's on Amazon Prime.
It is. Or go dig up the comic book out of a quarter bin somewhere.
Yay. And
your number two.
My number 2 is actually...
You are number 2.
My number 2... I am not a number. I am a man. I am a free man. That's a reference in The Prisoner. But
You're welcome.
My number 2 is actually a number 3. And by that, I mean it is Superman, the Man of Steel, number 3, written by John Byrne and drawn by John Byrne. Now, if you don't know, this was John Byrne's Man of Steel miniseries reboot for the Man of Steel after the Crisis on Infinite Earths. Now, by the time that DC debuted Superman and the Man of Steel again in 1986, Superman and Batman had already teamed up countless times over the years. However, this story was all about updating Superman's origin story, bringing him into the modern age. And of course, this was a very young Superman. So this was the new way of how Superman met Batman.
Yes.
In issue number 3, Superman and Batman, fresh on the job. And Superman randomly flies over Gotham and catches Batman in the middle of an act of beating a criminal up. Now, he grabs Batman's grappling hook and starts dragging him to taking him to the police. He's like, I'm going to arrest you, vigilante. And Batman basically stops him with a bluff. Now, Batman's like, hey, look at me. And Superman looks at him and he sees that Batman has an electromagnetic field around him. And Batman tells Superman that if Superman touches him again, he will break the circuit of the field and an innocent member of Gotham City will die from a bomb that Batman placed on them.
Ooh, Batman's a dick.
So Superman is so shocked by this that Batman's like, look, let me continue with my investigation and then I'll happily turn off the bomb, but you got to let me deal. So this Superman's like, fine, I'm begrudgingly, whatever. Ugh, this guy. So him and Batman team up and they take down the really ridiculous Superman villain, Magpie.
Yay.
And then at the very end, they put her in jail. And Superman's like, wow, you actually did a pretty decent job there, Batman. We got to talk about this bomb, though, because I'm still pretty pissed at you about this.
Yeah.
And Batman reveals, he takes this little piece, this little fiber or whatever, this little machine out of his belt. And he reveals that the bomb was on him the entire time. And because he wasn't going to risk anybody's life.
Except his own. And
he figured that Superman with his super senses could tell if he was lying or not. So he was like, I threatened myself and I figured you'd buy the bluff.
Interesting.
And so Superman was like, okay, I admire you, but I don't really like you. See you later, buddy, and flies off. Now, I think that let John Byrne set the stage for many adventures to come, and I think it let readers catch a hint of where this relationship was going to be in the post-crisis world. Mm-hmm. And also, it immediately set up that this wasn't the same, like, gee, Willikers, let's play baseball with Robin, world's finest duo that we'd seen for 50 years.
Yeah.
You know, that's why, like, it is definitely my number 2. Great art by John Byrne. For me, you can't beat the John Byrne drawn Superman. And the fact that is such a daring bluff on Batman's part that Batman's like, I'm going to kill somebody.
Tells you a lot about Batman.
Yeah. You know, like, you got to let me do my thing. And then you find out that the person that he was going to kill was going to be himself.
Also, sidebar, there's nothing wrong with playing baseball with Robin.
No, but I'm just saying, like,
I know, I'm
we're
stupid.
past the gee Willikers. Mm-hmm. Got another strike, Batman.
Bye, Warbonds.
Yeah. All right, Ashley.
All right, Jason.
We're at the moment where the justice is going to dawn.
Da-da.
What is your number 1 Batman v Superman story?
Well, I would hazard that there is almost no justice being wrought in my number 1.
There's no dawning?
There's no dawning.
There's no justice?
There is.
Is there any of those?
There's baseball.
What the hell did you pick?
I picked, of course, if you know me and you know my Batman taste, I had to go Jeff Loeb, Tim Sale joint on this. And there was this little book called Superman/Batman: Secret Files 2003. And the third story in that is a little thing called When Clark Met Bruce, A Tale from the Days of Smallville. And the synopsis is, many years ago, Alfred Pennyworth drives young Bruce Wayne across the country. Their car breaks down in Smallville, Kansas, and Alfred makes repairs. In a nearby field, Clark Kent and Pete Ross play baseball. They notice the sad-looking Wayne child in the window of the car just as it drives away. And Clark wonders if perhaps they should have asked him to play ball with them. I really like this story because it makes me feel things. And I also want to know why Batman and Alfred, or Bruce Wayne, like baby Bruce Wayne and Alfred, are driving through Kansas. Like, where are they going to some weird training facility for Bruce to go?
Sometimes I find that Master Bruce likes to look at the cows. It makes him not think about his mommy and daddy being in the ground. That's why. There you go.
That's so dark.
Official Alfred reason. I am surprised that you picked this.
Why?
I know that you like Tim Sale. I know that you like Jeff Loeb. I'm actually surprised that you didn't pick the Greg Pak redo of this.
Well, I was going to bring that up as well.
Because I like that version way better.
I was going to say, I do think that the Greg Pak, and of course I can't remember the artist's name.
I'm not certain whether it took place in Action Comics or Batman, Superman. I can't remember.
It's Action Comics.
Okay.
I do think the redo is better because you actually get to see them interacting, which I think is a little bit more interesting. But this was the first one.
Got it.
So that's why I picked it.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
And
in the redo, I like it better, I guess, for me, because in that Bruce does get out of the car
and they play baseball, yeah,
and Bruce plays baseball, and Clark hits a home run, but then Bruce like karate chops the crap out of Clark and completely like doesn't expect it, and then the thing that brings a tear to my eye in that story in the redo is Jonathan Kent at one point walks over to Alfred and says, the car's fixed. What are you doing? And Alfred says, I haven't seen Bruce smile in years. Can he just have another 30 minutes?
Yeah. The thing that I liked about the original with him not getting out of the car is, for me, them looking at each other through the window is very much a metaphor of the wall that Batman always has around everyone, even Superman. And that it closes with Clark being like, I should have done better.
And it is, so it fits both of them. That Batman won't let anybody in, and then Clark's like, oh, I could have done more. Mm-hmm. It is I will say that I love these little stories and stuff like that. It is completely coincidental that they would have ever met. You know?
I mean, this is very much almost an Elseworlds story.
Yes, yeah.
But it's one of those things where, like, maybe it doesn't live in my headcanon if I was going to sit down and map out what I thought all these characters' lives were. But it's such a sweet idea, and these characters, and again, this is a Grant Morrison thing, like, superheroes are American gods, or as close as we have to, like, mythology.
Yes, they are American mythology.
And the idea that, like, they're going to take these two gods, infantilize them, put them in the Midwest, like the American heartland, and have them interact, or even if it's, through distance, over a game of baseball. Like, I think from that kind of meta storytelling perspective is really nice.
Yeah. And you like the art.
And I like the art.
It's a good choice. It's a solid choice.
And it's like 5 pages long, so...
It's the easiest story to read on either of our lists.
Yeah.
That's why you should read it. That's why.
What's your number one Batman v Superman story?
When I thought about this list as a Batman v Superman list, for me, there was no other choice to put at number one than The Dark Knight Returns. Of course, this is the best Batman v Superman storyline. It is the best thing Frank Miller has ever drawn. It's the best thing he's ever written. It has an amazing movie adaptation by Bruce Timm. And if you don't know what this is, basically Bruce is an old man in the future, and he had been in retirement for 10 years. Gotham City's gone to hell. He comes back out of retirement, gains a new Robin called Carrie Kelly. And after taking control of Gotham with martial law, the president sends Superman, who now works for the government, to stop him after the superheroes have been outlawed. Batman tells Superman to meet him in Crime Alley, and Superman and him show down in Crime Alley. And you find out again that it is a stalling tactic for Batman to position Superman at the right place so that Green Arrow can hit him with a kryptonite arrow that Bruce synthesized. Now, again, the armor that Ben Affleck is wearing in Batman v Superman is the armor from The Dark Knight Returns. There's I guarantee you there's going to be a lot of homages in that movie to this. And again, so many great lines of dialogue, especially from Batman, because the whole thing is told from Batman's perspective. You hear his caption boxes, and he fights Clark and beats him. And he says this line in the book, and I'm putting money right now. I could be completely wrong. I bet it's in Batman v Superman. He says when he kicks Superman in the face and beats him, he says, "I want you to remember the one man that beat you."
That's going to be in the movie.
I guarantee you. And like I said, I hope they have Affleck say it because it's so iconic. It's so memorable. To me, again, for me, The Dark Knight Returns is the greatest Batman storyline of all. And I remember reading this as, I think I was like 12 or 11. I saw it as a weird trade paperback in an old weird store called On Q, if you remember those stores. Shout out to me on Twitter if you remember what On Qs are. They don't exist anymore. They went bankrupt. That's where I got my comics.
Nice.
And I remember reading that. And until that point, somewhere in the mid-90s, I had never considered Batman and Superman fighting each other.
Interesting.
And so for me, this was the first time I ever saw them fight. And also for me, it's one of the best justifications because now I think because of The Dark Knight Returns, it's very easy to make Batman and Superman fight each other. But I don't think any story has done it as well as The Dark Knight Returns. I also think, again, one of the only times that I believe that Batman could actually beat him.
I think that's interesting because it is arguably an Elseworlds story.
Oh, it's totally an Elseworlds story.
So I think it's interesting that that's kind of your number one.
Although it's so weird that recently, especially in the New 52, they have done a lot of winks and nods towards it.
I'll tell you exactly why. It's because all the people who grew up reading that are writing the comics.
Now. Yeah, but yeah, my number one best Batman v Superman storyline is The Dark Knight Returns.
You went very V on that.
Yes, I did.
You went like the opposite of mine.
Yeah. All right. So, of course, while we were debating our list, we couldn't put everything in the 5, and we knew that we were going to leave some stuff off. I know there are some people out there that are yelling at us about, what about this one and what about that one? Ashley, do you have any honorable mentions? What almost made it onto your list?
I don't have a lot of honorable mentions because this was a really hard list for me to make.
Interesting.
Because just to be completely honest, I haven't read a ton of Superman stuff. And I didn't just want to pick like a Justice League story.
Yeah, totally.
You know, I wanted it to be like very focal to these characters.
I came very close to picking JLA New World Order. I'll just say that because there are some great Batman Superman moments in it.
I thought about putting the Dark Knight Returns on my list, but I don't like that.
I know you don't like that story.
I don't think there's anything wrong with it. It's just not to my taste. And then again, yeah, like I really struggled to find stories where they fought, and I was like, I don't know any. So I don't have any also ran.
I have 2.
Okay.
The first honorable mention is Batman Hush, written by Jeff Loeb and Jim Lee. It's 12 issues where Batman is investigating the mystery of this villain named Hush. And in like the 4th or 3rd issue, I can't remember, he goes to Metropolis. He fights Superman in the sewers. He punches Superman in the face with the kryptonite ring. And the only thing, Superman's possessed by poison ivy. And the only thing that stops him is he threatens to throw Lois Lane off the side of a building. Now, the reason why I didn't pick it is because I also like Batman, Superman storylines to have consequences. And to me, they just did that for the one issue. Now, it's a great storyline, but for me, not my top 6, not my top 5. Another one that I thought about was Batman Endgame. The very opening issue is the Justice League's possessed by the Joker, and Batman fights Superman in a giant suit of Batman armor. I didn't like that the Joker possessed Superman. I don't buy that.
I agree.
And it rings untrue for me for some reason. So that's the reason why I knocked that off. Those are my 2 honorable mentions.
I lied. I almost put Composite Superman on here because
I
really wanted to. It was really important to me to have, because obviously like
a Golden Age.
Yeah, to have a Golden Age story or at least a Silver Age story. Because
that's why I put Man of Steel on here, or the John Byrne storyline. Yeah,
because so much of my reading is just obviously like 90s or like even 85 forward.
Well, now especially too, it's very in to make Batman and Superman fight, which
of course it
all started from Dark Knight Returns, but then because of the video game Injustice, now it's super popular.
And I haven't read any of the Injustice tie-in comics.
Good. I haven't read either.
They're supposed to be great, but I would assume that there's some good Batman v Superman action in there. But the reason I left off Composite Superman and I decided to just stick with the classic story is because Composite Superman is like really silly.
It is.
It is very like, it's kind of everything good and terrible about the Golden Age, whereas I feel like even though there's goofy stuff that happens in Superman 76, for the most part you can just kind of go with it and it still holds up as a solid like Batman Superman story. So I almost had Composite Superman.
There you go. Well, those are our lists, and just to let you know that all of our choices in whatever form that you can get them. You can find on geekhistorylesson.com/recommended reading, or go to geekhistorylesson.com, click on recommended reading. They're all there. And you click on them, the image of the story that you want to read. It'll take you to Amazon, and you can see that book. You can purchase that book, and a percentage of your purchase will come back to the Mind University and help us all out. And guess what? It will give you the perfect story to read after you walk out of Batman v Superman.
Right. After you go to the midnight showing at 3 o'clock in the morning, you can pick up Red Sun and go from there.
Wait, how is the midnight showing at 3 o'clock in the morning?
Well, it'll be over at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Okay.
Because then you got to drive home and talk to your friends about it.
Yeah, you got to Periscope and do all that stuff like that. All right, guys. So you may be wondering, okay, why did we decide to do Batman v Superman stories for the week that Batman and Superman came out? Well, because we had to do a couple podcasts that required a lot of research.
Wait, what?
Yeah, that's right. Because I want to announce, Ashley, next week you are doing a geek history lesson on what character that we talked a lot about in this podcast?
Batman.
Say that again in case you couldn't hear the whisper.
Batman. Batman.
That's right. Ashley is finally doing the geek history lesson on Batman.
Bracket.
Wait, well, we'll save that for later. They'll get to find out what that. There is a bracket.
There's caveats.
Yep, we love caveats. And the next week after that, I will be doing a geek history lesson.
Doing the voice.
On Superman. So there you go. 2 weeks. We're going to have 3 weeks of Batman and Superman goodness. I think you're going to love these lessons, but they required a lot of research.
And before everyone gets all up in arms about it on Twitter, Wonder Woman is coming closer to her movie.
There you go. We decided to save the wondrous Wonder Woman. So there you go. Those are coming in the next 2 weeks. So we hope you enjoyed our top 5 list. Head on over to Recommended Reading. Get all that reading. Read all the Batmans and the Supermans that you can. And then imagine Batman in this voice every time you hear it. Batman.
Hey, DC Animated, I want that Batman.
Robin.
Hashtag Jason for Batman.
Robin.
Yes.
What are you doing? Okay, everybody. So if you want to suggest, if you like this top 5 list, you want to suggest future top 5 lists for us, actually, where can they do that?
Well, you can go to geekhistorylesson.com or facebook.com/geekhistorylessons. All the appropriate conduits to talk to us are open.
We'd love to hear like what your ideas are. Like maybe we should do a top 5 Suicide Squad movie or stories. That would be interesting, I think.
I'd have to do so much research.
We'd probably have to do it. We'd probably do it together.
Oh, yeah?
I think it's probably what we
I was like, are there even 5 Suicide Squad stories?
I think so, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I think there totally is 5.
Well, I've read exactly 0, so that's just what I know.
All right. Don't forget, guys, you can find this podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, and SoundCloud at soundcloud.com/geekhistorylesson. And if you would do us a favor, please go over there and leave us a rating and a review because it lets other listeners find the podcast. It's the perfect way to let this podcast grow. We need you to go over there, give us a star rating because that way you can be awesome. And that way we won't come after you with like the V in blank V blank Dawn of Justice. We won't Dawn of Justice you. So there you go. You can find me on Twitter at Jawan if you want to complain about any of my voices. And you can find Ashley on Twitter at Ashley V Robinson if you think that When Clark Met Bruce is not a real Batman v Superman story. I'm not saying that, but somebody on Twitter might.
Well, you can just take that tweet and not send it to me.
Just like the Dawn of Justice. All right, all right, super friends, go on out there to the Hall of Justice. Enjoy your movies. Read you some books. I'm Jason V. Inman.
I am actually Ashley V. Robinson.
Wait, you're Ashley versus the Robinson?
I was born that way.
Which
Don't
creates
judge.
the Dawn of Justice?
I'm probably the Robinson part because that's the shoutier part of my
very
family.
Very nice. Well, Professor Ashley, would you please close out this Hall of Justice amazing top 5 list of a podcast?
Hey, Batman?
What?
Class is dismissed.
Robin. Be quiet, Robin.